Okay, welcome to the On Deck Restaurant. I am Emma Christie. I'm the manager for this project. These are my other group mates down here: Carolina, Kimberlyn, Frank, Angela, and Brad. This is our homepage for our project, so I'm just going to sit here and explain some of the ways we got our calculations and our numbers, some of the ways we display that information, and some of our graphics, as long as how we went about doing this project. So welcome to our On Deck Restaurant. Looking down, we made a little graphic here to describe what group we were, who the professor was, and what class we did this for. We just wanted to do this in case we ever presented this professionally so that we would know what class we did it for and exactly why we were doing it. So this is all our information about what we learned. We just wanted to talk a little about our learning experience through this project. So basically the biggest thing is that communication was really key. Without communication, there was no way for us to be able to know what page everybody's on. So we had a lot of issues with it being the end of the semester and organizing ourselves and getting together and getting the project done. We had to do a lot of planning and a lot of preparing for the worst. We also had to pay attention to the job assigned so that if someone got assigned something, someone else didn't start it, so that everything got accomplished in a timely and orderly manner. And we want to accept responsibilities. Mistakes are going to happen. We're a team, and we ended up working really successfully at this project. Here's our little award of excellence by Stockton University students, because we know that we're the best right there. So moving on, here's our day one orders, which for us was November 28th, 2017. So looking through, our day one and our day two orders are going to look almost the same, except for some minor differences. So for example, selling price for every spreadsheet should be the same. We got this from our Counta app, from exactly knowing we're selling bruschetta for $11.07, we're selling buffalo wings for $8.99. That's never going to change. Our item costs also shouldn't change. So bruschetta is always going to cost us $2. It's not going to cost us $3 one day, $2 the next day. It's always going to cost us the same amount. So these two columns should always be the same. The number of sold, however, is obviously going to change. We're going to sell something a few times one day, maybe no times the next night, maybe a dozen times the next. It's kind of unpredictable. But we hope that with this kind of data, we can kind of predict how much inventory we should have, how many wings we should have ordered, or how many we should sell that night based on the number of tables, the number of people, and the number of guests. All really important. So for number of sold, for day one, we sold like 5 bruschetta, 9 buffalo wings. This contributes to our total sales. Our total sales category is our selling price times our number of sold. So the 11 times the 5 is the $55. Whereas our total cost is the number of sold times the item cost. So for 5 times 11, it will be a sales of 55. 5 times 2, it will be a cost of 10. If you subtract these two columns, you get our gross profit, which is what we make. We're selling it for this much and making this much money, but obviously it's going to cost us something with our ingredients and our preparation. Your gross profit is the amount that you'll be making after those calculations. You can see our total sales for this day, therefore, is $2,074.20. Moving on to day two. Like I said, day two is exactly the same in the setup, except we're looking at November 29th. On this day, we sold 2 bruschettas instead of selling 5 previously. So 11 times 2 is 22, and 2 times 2 is 4. That means that our sales minus our cost would equal 18 gross profit. Excuse me. It's the same calculations, just with different number of sales because it's a different day. Therefore, looking at our numbers, our sales for this day would be $1,807.63, just a little bit less than the previous day. Still a pretty stable difference. Now we're looking at average check per guest. For this project, we had to calculate average check per guest and average check per party. So looking at average check per guest, you're equaling to sales divided by the number of guests. This spreadsheet is set up almost identical to the previous two spreadsheets, looking at day one and day two. Your menu items include all the items that are available on the menu, selling price is the same, and item cost is the same. The only difference with the number of sold is it is the total from day one and day two. On day one, we sold 5 bruschettas. On day 2, we sold 2 bruschettas, so we sold a total of 7. Our 7 times 11 is a $77 in total sales. Our 2 times our 7 is a $14 in our cost. Subtract the sales from the cost and get your gross profit. Same idea, just with the total. Like I said, for this part of the project, we should be looking at our average check per guest, our sales over our number of guests. So our sales is going to be a little bit different because now we are looking at total sales. This is our total sales figure right here, $3,915. For day 1 and day 2, for number of guests, we had 60 guests both days. So day 1, you're taking your sales from day 1, which we looked at previously, and dividing it by 60. Same exact concept for day 2. However, on this spreadsheet, what you can see in the answer here, average per guest, would be our total sales on both days are $3,915.74 divided by our total number of guests, which is 120 guests, 60 guests per day. This number divided by the 120 is our average check per guest of $32.63. You can see these calculations a little bit more simply in our graphs. Our day 1 average check per guest, we're making about $34 and some change on our guests in day 1. Only about $29 and some change in day 2, but not enough difference there to be too concerned. This is just breaking it down. Day 1 and day 2. You can see both days. Same idea with average check per party. However, you're looking at the party or the number of tables that you are seating instead of the number of guests. Same exact spreadsheet is displayed here. Your number of sold is based on your total of day 1 and day 2, and your sales, your cost, and your gross profit is the total of both day 1 and day 2 sales. This means that this calculation is almost the same exact concept. Our sales is the same, our $3,915.74, except this number, as you can see, is quite different. Your average check per guest, you're calculating how much you're making per guest. So we had 120 guests over both nights. Every guest that come in, on average, is paying you $32.63 for your food service operations. But we also want to calculate how much we're making per party. So we had 18 parties per day, or 18 tables were sat per day in our calculations. So our number of parties total would be 36. You're looking at the same exact calculation. You're taking your total sales, your $3,915.74. You're dividing it by your number of parties, which is 36, 18 parties both days, total sales, and you're coming up with your $108.77. This means on average per party, whether it's a party of 2, a party of 5, everything's very relative. Overall, you're making $108.77 per every party that comes in. Next, we're going to look at our sales volume by hour for day 1 and day 2. These calculations are a little bit more simple. So on day 1 and day 2, these are our total sales just broken up by hour. Obviously, by service and by calculations, people come in at different times and people are set up on different shifts. So our 6 to 7 shift has done very well. It's our best selling shift. It's a very big dinner rush. Whereas if you look down the line, 9 to 10 is not doing as well. We can use this data to make some sort of assumptions. Maybe people are coming in during this time because it's convenient. And maybe between 9 and 10, we need to run some more special or some sort of happy hours to bring in a different crowd. That can make up for some of the profit that we're not making during that time, and that might be able to improve sales. So skipping through that for a second, you can definitely see that 6 o'clock is our best time. You definitely want to make a reservation if you're going to come see us during them. Here you can just see by percentage and by totals. You can see sales by hour. So as I said before, 6 to 7 was our most popular hour here, making $911.57 day 1 and $961.34 day 2. You can also see that 6 to 7 on day 2 was 54% of our sales, whereas 6 to 7 on day 1 was 44% of our sales. So we can see that it definitely is a big chunk. You also can see here by day 1 and day 2, so this is the combined information. 6 to 7 made up almost half of our sales entirely. So the other times we could definitely get some work and maybe run some specials and see if we can make a difference in those hours. You also want to look at sales by server day 1 and day 2. Day 1, there were only 2 servers on staff, and then you can see exactly how much they made from their tables on those nights. This is just strictly the menu items ordered and the checks that were given. You can see that Melody made $1,900 in sales that day, and Jocelyn was about $400, $300-ish. Melody was our highest nightly sales for that night, and this is the information broken up by percentage. Melody was 84% of sales, and Jocelyn was 16%. Same thing for day 2, except you have a little bit bigger of staff. So your sales by server on day 2 is staff with 6 people. You can see that all the numbers are different. So Frank made a total sales of $118. Maybe he was in a different section, had some smaller parties, whereas myself made almost $600 in sales. You can see this information displayed here. Our total sales was a little bit over $1,500. I was about $600 of that. You can see that Frank was about $180 of that. And it's easy to say about how much each server made that night in their checks. Highest nightly sales is here, it's me, $591. I had some bigger parties, some bigger sections with some more checks with some alcohol in it, which made a big difference. So now we're going to look at gross profit for day 1 and day 2, as well as a combination of day 1 and day 2. So gross profit is total sales minus total costs. So for day 1, our gross profit was $1,486. The same thing as we were doing in the earlier graphs. You're taking your total sales, you're subtracting your total costs. This is the same spreadsheet as in day 1 sales. We sold 5 bruschettas the first day, we sold 2 the second day. That makes our total of 7. Right now we're focusing on day 1. So 5 bruschettas, same exact thing. Total sales, 5 times 11. Total cost, 5 times 2. Subtract your sales minus your costs and you get your gross profit. Same idea in day 2. The only thing that changes here is your number of orders, which changes the rest of the equation. So you sold 2 bruschettas, so 11 times 2, you made $22. 2 times 2, it cost you $4. Subtract your sales minus your costs to get your gross profit. They're going to be slightly different in your sales on both days, since you sold different amounts of items both days. Your day 1 and day 2, your total gross profit, your margin is $2,739. Basically what you're doing is this is the same spreadsheet as earlier as our combined average check. So this is your total. You sold 7 bruschettas over the 2 days. Your calculations are identical. Your total, you mix up your sales, your cost, and you subtract. We wanted to display this in graph form so it was a little bit easier to visualize and to understand. So this was your day 1 gross profit margin, 1,486.78. Day 2 is 1,280.95, and this is your both days. You can see that day 1 sales is 54% of your gross profit margin, making that day a little bit more profitable, but it's not too much of a difference to be concerned. Like I said before, the restaurant is doing pretty well and definitely very stable. So lastly, what I want to go over really quick is our top 5 for both days. So you can see that our best selling entrees right now are our crab imperial and surf and turf, totally delicious. You definitely want to try those. So in our spreadsheet, you can see that these are our top 5. So we had sold 19 sorbets, 12 crab imperials, 12 surf and turfs, 10 buffalo wings, and 10 chocolate lava cakes. If you scroll to the bottom, you can see what we sold 0 of. I highlighted those as well. We didn't sell any soups, and we didn't sell a quite bit of salad. So we can see items that we might want to change on the menu, what's not doing well, what we should be promoting. This is just a more visual way to understand that. So for sorbets, for example, we sold 19, which you can see in our pie chart, and that was 10% of our total orders. Same thing for something like here with the grilled salmon with rice. We sold 9 of those, which was 4.8% of our orders. So that's our project. I really hope you enjoyed listening to us. I really hope you come and check everything out at the On Deck restaurant. I hope you have a great day and a great rest of your semester. Thank you.